All right. Well, thanks. And to be fair, I stopped at the Pro Football Hall of Fame on the way home from visiting you, so it really wasn't all about you. So, um, first off, thanks for having me here. The first two speakers, you guys hit home runs, so I'm super nervous to deliver something to you. But this whole pandemic that we're in really changes perspectives, changes gears, just really changes how you think about everything. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how it's kind of affected me and things that I've gone through. So for the last 18 years, I was a Division I strength and conditioning coach. That's what I've done, built myself up. I was at my last job for 10 years. I was the first coach, created the program. It was my baby, the whole thing. And I've always tried to play it safe. I've had some opportunities to go to bigger schools, but I've always kind of liked where I was in Philly. It's kind of close to home for me. I've really tried to be as safe as I possibly could. The three jobs I have, including the one I have now, are all about 3 miles from each other. So, I really have never left this area since I moved here. But fast forward, I got this, great job opportunity here. Things change, perspectives change, and I got the ability to be an athletic director. So I jumped at the chance. And then as soon as I put my 2 weeks notice in, coronavirus hit, and I never stepped foot on campus. My first day of work was the 16th. Pennsylvania shut down. So I really just got back to work maybe like 2 weeks ago. And, that was hard. That was really, really hard. And then in the midst of this as well, we also decided to sell our house. So changed jobs. We were homeless because we sold our house. We couldn't find a house. It was a challenging time. And, when you go through that time, and it kind of forces you to really reflect on some things. And when I was trying to prepare this speech, I kind of told Tom what I was thinking, and he said, just give a couple of big take homes that you got through this process. And that's what I really want to talk about. So first off, my big things is I've always tried to play it safe. I always try to control my own narrative. And I've just realized that is impossible. I think we all realize that that's impossible. You can't do it. All right. You can't predict the future. You can't stay safe can't stay safe forever, but you can be prepared if there's a worst case scenario. And that's what I've tried to do during this whole time. Things you don't think about when you're a younger strength coach is, what you're going to do financially, how you're going to handle things. And if you haven't, and you're a young coach, you need to get to a financial advisor and start working on that stuff now, because you don't want to be in a situation where, especially at my level where I'm at Division III, a lot of the coaches in my conference have been furloughed and lost their jobs, and they have it's not like you have a coaching change. And, I've survived for coaching changes. This you can't really prepare yourself for. So, these are things that you kind of need to really be thinking about with your different revenue streams and things like that. I know that I've revisited that. Luckily, we're going to be in a situation where we should be okay. But again, it's scary, and you really can't plan for any of these things, because what's going to happen is going to happen. Another thing, we all have great connections at work, right? We have connections through the athletes. That's the one thing that I miss the most. We have connections through our coaches. But I really recommend, if you can, and I'm sure everybody does, but you need to really create a support system outside of the university or wherever you work. For me, for example, changing gears midway and leaving jobs, I was there for 10 years. So people that I was good friends with, they were my family, they were my support system. My athletes, they were my support system. Those are the people that I talked to. When this pandemic hit, that all got erased. I got text messages here and there from our athletes, from our lacrosse guys, asking a couple of things. But coaches and people that I talked to every single day, I just really didn't talk to. I just didn't have them anymore. And then starting a new job, as great as everybody's been here in this university, and I'm thankful for everyone that's here, it's just different. It's just not the same, because you don't have those personal connections. So for me, getting outside of that and reconnecting with my family, reconnecting with some of my friends, reconnecting with people that I worked with in the past was really important, especially from a mental health standpoint, because it helped me get through a lot of those times that, again, you're trying to play it safe and the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. I guess the other one is changing gears midstream like this, a lot of my identity was drawn from being a strength coach, right? From working at the university I worked at, from having that name on my chest, and that's kind of gone now. And now I'm at a smaller school that honestly probably none of you have ever heard. And at the end of the day, like, you know, me changing gears and going from Division I to Division III isn't going to define who I am as a coach or the job that I'm going to do. And I think people need to realize that too, especially younger coaches. You know, I got off the phone with some kids today about wanting to intern that have jobs, you know, working at high schools, and all they want to do is get to that big Division I school. And some of them, I'm just like, what is wrong? Why would you do that? You have a great job. You're impacting athletes like Will talked about earlier. It's really not about getting to that pinnacle. Like you can, it's great to say that you work at a big school, but it's really not what's going to define you. And I think as you get older, you actually start to realize that a little bit more. It's something that I definitely didn't understand until the last couple of years. And again, and Will alluded to this too, your priorities are going to change. You know, for me, it was always about being the hardest worker in the room, you know, spending 12 hours at the facility, staying until everybody's done. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but, you know, I have a wife and 2 kids that during this time of being home and getting to reconnect with them, it's probably been one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I have a 5 and a 2-year-old. I get to eat breakfast with them every day. You know, those are the things that I think, you know, in athletics, you kind of forget about because you're so ingrained into day-to-day of the being busy, right? I got to get up. I got to be at the facility. You know, I would be guilty because I take my kids to school in the morning. I would be guilty that I'm not there for that 6 o'clock group, that 7 o'clock group, but I'm still staying to get all my work done. And, you know, I'm not letting it fall on my staff, but I'd still feel guilty about that stuff. You know, having this reset, you know, having almost these priorities shift during this time, during the COVID stuff and the quarantine, you know, really changed my perspective on things and what's truly important to me. And not that my athletes aren't important, not that my coaches aren't important, not that my job's not important, but they're also not going to be more important than my family. And that's something that I've really, you know, it's taken me a long time to get to. You know, maybe that's being a little bit older, having a little bit of hindsight, but that's just for me. And then kind of lastly, you know, it's weird. You know, again, you talk about being safe and your perspective change and you can't control certain things. But at the end of the day, you have to have a little bit of faith that things are going to work out the right way. You know, I'm not saying that you have to be a religious person, but you also have to have a little bit of faith and a little bit of spirituality to help with your mental health and you know, put your hands in something a little bit greater than you. Because at the end of the day, like we can prepare, right? So we all talked about this even before we got on the air. You know, we're doing all this coronavirus testing, we're planning, we're doing all types of things. But at the end of the day, like, we have no control over that situation. And, you know, it took me the first probably 2 or 3 months of, you know, what happens if the university isn't open? What happens if this doesn't happen? What if happens with this? And it really got me depressed. But being here and having a little bit of faith in something bigger than me, that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out, has really helped out. And it's something that I try to get through my head every single day, that it is going to work out. Things are going to happen for a reason. What you want, you might not get, but there's a reason why you're not going to get it. And it's going to, you know, maybe you're getting protected from something that's going to happen to you down the road, if that makes sense. You know, so again, as a young coach, me at 24, I wouldn't have believed that. I'm just going to go and grind that thing out. I can control every variable, but it's just not the way it works. And I think that once you kind of get to that point, you can kind of have a little faith that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to. It takes some of the pressure off your shoulders. It's not going to take it all off your shoulders, but, you know, it's going to kind of help you get through that day to day and, you know, maybe ease some of your anxiety. You know, again, I'd like to thank everyone for letting me talk here. I was going to set a timer. I have no idea if I went 10 minutes or I went below. I feel like I'm in a public speaking class in college. I didn't want to go long, but, you know, if anyone needs to reach me, I wasn't fancy like everyone. You can just reach me at CoachBing53 on Instagram.com. I don't really put up a lot of content. It's mostly pictures of my kids, but they're 2 good-looking kids. So if you want to check that out, you're more than welcome to. But Tom,
Bing,
thanks for having me on here.
What's your other Instagram?
Oh, Iron Eagles at SNC.com or Iron Eagles SNC, excuse me.